She is the national security and foreign policy expert at the Heritage Foundation, one of them certainly, Deputy National Security Advisor to President Trump in his previous administration. She authored a great book called The Battle for the Jewish State, How Israel and America Can Win. And Victoria, that brought a guy who's not typically emotional to tears yesterday, what he watched. I saw some of your reaction on cable news yesterday. I'd love to get your response. What did you think when that happened? Many people, including people who hate Donald Trump's guts politically, had to confess this was a big deal.
It was, Chris. I mean, it was a great day. It was a great day for America. It was a great day for Israel. It was a great day for the world. And, all praise to those who could get over their political divide and just admit that the president did something extraordinary yesterday, which was focus on the hostage issue. He started with that right after he was reelected last year. He started speaking out for the hostages. He was their most relentless American advocate, demanding their return over and over again. He knew that had to happen first. And then Israel would no longer be paralyzed by that horrible situation, and we could move forward. And that's what finally happened. And everybody said it wouldn't happen, that he couldn't get them all out at once, and he did get all of those 20 living hostages out. And the scenes of joy in Israel were incredible. And then he moved right on to Egypt, where he met with about 20 heads of state and signed a peace deal. So his 20-point plan has been agreed to by all of these different countries, including Israel. Question is what happens next, but he's taken that huge first step.
In my small brain, I'll rely on your big brain on this to tell me whether I'm right or wrong, but in my small brain, here's how I saw it. He takes this early trip in his presidency to the Middle East, and at the time it was reported as, and he's not even stopping in Israel. And there was great outrage about it. And then he bombs Iran's nuclear facilities swiftly, quickly, strategically. Then just a couple weeks ago, he said, when asked about Israel, oh, no, they're not going to be able to move in aggressively and just take over Gaza. I'm not going to let that happen. And then this. It was very, very interesting to me that it looks now like, and he complimented Marco Rubio, this was all part of something that maybe we didn't get to see publicly, but was working in the background for some months. Is that about right, or is there more to it?
No, I think that's absolutely right. And I think it's an important continuation of what he started in the first term, when he would do things like recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, recognize the Golan Heights as sovereign Israeli territory, which led some to say, oh, he's just a creature of Israel. He's just following Israel's demands. Not at all. He was also working closely with Arab and Gulf partners and allies. And that's what you've seen play out over the course of this last year, where, yes, he took that trip going from very deliberately Saudi Arabia to Qatar to UAE. And that was, yes, a business trip. He took CEOs along with him. That was an Invest in America trip. But it was also a very strong signal to the region that he takes them seriously. He wants them all on board with us. And then, yes, he does good things for Israel. But at the same time, he's not a stooge for Israel. He can also tell Prime Minister Netanyahu, okay, I don't want you to be annexing in Judea and Samaria. That's just going to be incendiary. It's just going to cause more tensions. But at the same time, I'm going to do all these things that are beneficial for you, because you are a sovereign nation, we are a sovereign nation, but we have common interests. So I think you're 100% correct that this has been part of a program to get to this peace deal.
I'm glad you pointed this out, because I think it bears repeating. And he even said it yesterday about Netanyahu. You're not an easy guy. There clearly was tension there, and Trump was clearly not afraid to tell Netanyahu no dice when he felt he needed to be told no dice. I mean, there were places that Trump was not going to allow Netanyahu to go. True?
Oh, yes. And that's the thing, is Israel's a sovereign nation. The United States is a sovereign nation. We both have our interests. And, the vast majority of times they align. Occasionally they don't. And when they don't, the president and the prime minister hash it out. And then you get breathless press reports about, a tense phone call. Well, sure, there are tense phone calls when countries at war and, they are trying to figure out how to get out of that war. But it doesn't mean that they don't both realize that this relationship is critical to our countries, and we will get through whatever, temporary tensions there are to get to a great day like yesterday.
Victoria, how critical were the Abraham Accords from the first term? I know that Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, was there with Steve Witkoff. They were recognized by the president yesterday, and the president continued to say of the Abraham Accords and Jared Kushner, keep working on this, and any countries that haven't signed on, time to sign on. The economics of this, the business of it, Trump continued to hammer that this is not just some global confab kumbaya, I'd like to buy the world a Coke thing. He's saying this is in everyone's economic best interest. We can all get filthy rich here if we all play nice, is basically the way I read that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he basically said, start making money together, stop bombing each other. And that's where the United States can play this incredible sort of leadership role. And I don't see China or Russia or any other country stepping in and promising this kind of prosperity and security to our partners and allies. So I think that is central. And it was central to the Abraham Accords, as you just pointed out. These were the first peace deals in 25 years in the Middle East. And unlike the previous two between Egypt and Jordan and Israel, they weren't ending a state of war. The Gulf states, Morocco, Bahrain, and UAE, Morocco obviously in northern Africa, they hadn't been at war with Israel, but they hadn't had relations. And the idea was open that up, start doing business together. And the great thing about those accords, Chris, is that they endured through over 2 years of that grinding war in Gaza. Nobody pulled out. Nobody froze the accords. The flights kept going between those countries. The commerce kept expanding. We just did our commemoration of 5 years of the Abraham Accords at Heritage, and we're proud to point out that trade expanded in 2024, even with this horrible war going on. So they really were central. Jared was central to them. If he hadn't been in the White House in the first term, they wouldn't have happened. And I don't think the peace deal yesterday would have happened without his intervention.
I know you're in demand, so I don't want to put you on the spot here live on the air, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Can I hold you for one more segment, or do you need to run? If you need to run, that's okay.
No, I can definitely stay for another segment. Thank you.
Okay, because I want to ask you a little bit more about the peace plan going forward. But with about 30 seconds to go, could I just ask you this? The surrounding area, the neighbors that are involved in the Abraham Accords, how interested have they been in a peace and doing business with Israel, but have just been afraid to because of Iran or whatever? I mean, do you think most of these neighbors are interested in a peaceful, non-militant, secular existence with Israel?
Oh, absolutely. They know Israel is the high-tech hub of the Middle East, the innovation hub of the Middle East. And that's where these countries are going. The countries like UAE and Bahrain, but also Saudi Arabia is changing dramatically. Kuwait, Oman, all of these countries want in on what's happening in Israel. And so, I think we will see that expand going forward.
So when we return, I wanted to lean on your expertise about how Gaza is governed going forward. I saw her all day yesterday, and I knew how busy she'd be today, but she is good enough to make time for us always. The Battle for the Jewish State, How Israel and America Can Win, authored by Victoria Coates. We'll be back with her in just a moment on The Stigall Show. If you're watching on the Salem News Channel, you'll see a live picture from the Gaza Strip this morning. If you're listening on great radio stations all over the country, we continue to be joined by our friend Victoria Coates from the Heritage Foundation, national security foreign policy expert, author of The Battle for the Jewish State, and she was generous enough with her time to stick around for another segment because, Victoria, what I want to know, it is true, Israel did a lot of damage to Gaza. In my view, Hamas, deservedly so. Look, as far as I'm concerned, Hamas being eradicated was the goal, is the goal. They haven't been. They're still there. As I understand it, still policing the streets of Gaza at this hour. So the deal here, as I understand it, Victoria, is to cobble together some of these neighboring Arab and Muslim nations to kind of, create a coalition to govern them and see to it that Hamas doesn't reinstall itself. How is that achieved? Will that be achieved?
Well, I think that we saw some promising signs yesterday, Chris, for how this could be achieved. And for starters, the president put that meeting together yesterday in Egypt, and it wasn't at the United Nations. The United Nations Secretary General was present, but he was there as a guest, not as the host. So we're not going to hopefully go back to the broken institutions of the UN, like the United Nations Relief Works Agency, UNRWA, that has run the schools in Gaza for these many years, that have radicalized all of these generations of Hamas. So getting out of that broken system was the first piece. The second piece is that the United States isn't just going to fund this out of the goodness of the taxpayers' hearts. The president was very explicit yesterday that those wealthy Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, that they're going to have to open their wallets. They've been very vocal about their support for the Palestinian cause. That's great. You support it, you can write the check, and you can be the one who funds whatever's going to happen next in Gaza. And that's going to be a pretty big check. So that president was clear that burden is going to fall on you, not the U.S. taxpayer. So I thought that those two steps were promising for what can happen going forward in Gaza.
I know this is naive, but you look at that strip of land, and everyone understands the geography of it. President Trump has often remarked that it could become one of the beautiful resort areas in the world. That geography, that landscape, their beaches and the whole thing, but they're governed by despots and terrorists who rob and steal and thieve. And so one wonders, why wouldn't people of that region, including neighbors, want that area to thrive commercially and financially? Why wouldn't you want that?
Well, that's always been the question for the Palestinians living in Gaza, is would you rather create something that can, as you say, thrive, rather than, just spend all of your time and energy on hating Israel and trying to get Israel to disappear? And again, that's another thing that was very clear yesterday. Nobody in that room wants Israel to disappear anymore. They don't want Israel to be wiped off the map. They ultimately want to make friends with Israel. 75 years ago, that was absolutely not the case. Everyone in that room would have said, this is a rogue state. It has no right to exist. We want to destroy it. Now we're in a very different place. They want Israel to still be there, to be their friend, to be their technological partner and their economic partner going forward. So, if Hamas has actually gotten the memo that they lost, that Israel isn't going to go away, that all of their so-called supporters are actually on their way to becoming, partners with Israel, will somebody finally stand up amongst the Palestinians and say, we don't want it to be this way anymore. We do want to be a thriving hub of tourism and economic innovation on the Eastern Mediterranean. They even have all sorts of natural resources, Chris. They've got natural gas, for example. There's something called Gaza Marine. They could develop that natural gas. They could become an exporter, or at least, secure their own energy security. So there are all sorts of possibilities here. It's just up to the Palestinians to grab them.
And with just about 30 seconds to go, my final question then, can the Palestinians do it alone, or do they need help? Because Hamas, they're brutal, right? They've kept these people under the thumbs for a very long time. You don't just stand up in the middle of the street when Hamas is patrolling it and say, hey, take a hike.
No, we've all seen the videos of Hamas summarily executing everyone they accuse of collaborating with the Israelis. So, no, they do need help. They are going to need partners and allies to come in, give them assistance that isn't Hamas-based. But that can happen. The Egyptians can help. The Jordanians can help. The Indonesians want to help. These don't have to be American boots on the ground. That's critically important. They can be partners and allies from the region, helping the Palestinians stand up.
There is no one I would have rather spoken to about this today than Victoria Coates at the Heritage Foundation, and The Battle for the Jewish State is her best-selling book. Victoria, thank you for your excellence, as always.
Thank you, Chris. Have a great one.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.